You know, several years ago, I used to see this ad for coffee on television. And I'll explain the scenario to you. They showed buzzing New York, and there's a dance studio over there where some modern dancers are rehearsing. And in the break, they sit down for a hot cup of coffee. So, a very Western scenario. And here's the jingle that was playing along. How is life with you? Do I read a welcome in your smile? Let's sit and talk a while in the warm world of Nescafe. So this was the jingle. Now I'm saying, let's change the scenario. Now we get transported to India. And Mr. and Mrs. Sharma have just finished their tour of Agra. They've seen the Taj Mahal and the other monuments. And they sit down in a small dhaba to have a cup of coffee. How then will this jingle change? How is life with you? Do I read a welcome in your smile? Let's sit and talk a while in the warm world of Nescafe. So there, you saw, it immediately got transformed into Indian. But now I'm going to give you a contrary situation. Some French Baroque musicians had come to India, I think it was in the 80s, and they were supposed to do a concert with Kishori Amonkar. And at the end of the concert, they had to do a kind of a cross-cultural exchange. So they were to sing a bhajan together. Okay. I'm going to sing for you just a clip of the bhajan they were supposed to interpret together. It was like this. Maro pranam, Maro pranam, Baake Bihari ji, Maro pranam. Now after days of rehearsal, the Baroque musicians had to sing this. So this is the way the Western interpretation came. Maro pranam, Baake Bihari ji, Maro pranam. So it just makes you wonder that if the 7 notes are common all over the world, the 8th note is yet to be discovered. Whether it is sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa or do re mi fa sol la ti do, it's all the same. Then why is it that something sounds Japanese, something sounds Indian, something sounds Chinese? Good question to ponder about. It's actually just the treatment given to these notes that make it sound Indian or Western. Let me give you a nice example. And I'm taking a Western example because against the backdrop of Western, you'll see your Indian very starkly. So I'm taking a composition of Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer. It's called the Matslav, and I felt like singing it rather than putting it on the audio. So I'm going to sing it for you, just a bit of the melody. It goes like this. Ta na 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 ta na 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 na. This is Matslav by Tchaikovsky. So what is the repetitive line in this symphony? It is ta na 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 na. Translated into Western notes, so fa mi re do. Translated into Indian notes, pa ma ga re sa. Now this pa ma ga re sa, try passing it through the vocal cords of a Hindustani musician or through the hands of an Indian musician. And this is how the Pama Garesa will come out. First the Western. Da, na, 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 na. Now the Indian. Pa, ma, ga, ma, ga, re, sa. And it immediately transforms for us into Rag Madhuvanti. So this is what I wanted to show you, the Indian essence or the Indian touch. What happened to those notes? They got sort of pulled and stretched and played around with. Some ornamentations were added. I want to decode these ornamentations for you. What do we have in our Indian tunes? And many of you probably sitting back there think, I know nothing about Indian music. Wrong. If you laughed at anything of what I did, you recognize the Indian element right there. It sounded funny because it was in a Western context. All of you who are surrounded by Indian music know it from the core. You just don't know that you know it. So, some of these nice ornamentations. One is, probably comparable to the Western glide or glissando. We call it the meend. Very pronounced in Indian music. To use an old Hindi film song, Rasik Balma Hai. Do you see the meend? Rasik Balma. Very typically Indian. That's called the meend. And then we have what is called the Khatka. Khatkas are, tiny little jerks added on to notes to decorate them. Ah, ah, ah. So every time I do my hand, I'm showing you a Khatka. So let's take a song like Tum mile Khatka, Dil khile, aur jeene ko kya chahiye. That's a Khatka. Jai ho. Jai. You see that? That's a Khatka. Or another song. Radha kaise na jale, aag tan man mein lage. Radha kaise na jale, Radha kaise na jale. Khatka. What is the other ornamentation we have? Murki. Murki is really like, a very coquettish woman who suddenly looks here and then looks back. She takes a fleeting glance at her lover and looks back. The Murki is really shaped like that. It's a little cluster of notes, comparable probably to a Western trill, but more pronounced, I'll say. Okay, Murki for you. Ah, ah, ah. Sarizazanini, Madha Baba Mama. See this tiny frill? In fact, in classical music, we are told not to take too many murkis because it gives a frivolousness. So you find it more in light music. Jhumka gira re, murki. And then cluster of murkis. Hai. Yeah, and that's called a Zamzama, when there's this cluster of murkis. Hai. You're not supposed to laugh, huh? These are Indian ornamentations. Okay, but did you see the nakra that came in due to the murki? Jhumka gira re. It's meant for that. It's meant for giving this coquettishness. So that's the murki for you. And then we have what we call Andolan, oscillating a note. Pucho na kaise maine rain bitai. That's called Andolan, oscillating a note. And finally, one of the vocal techniques we have, when I was a kid and when you're a child, very few children might readily go for Hindustani classical music. They are just too enamored by Bollywood and other lighter forms of music. Me likewise, as a child, I knew I had to study it. But the point when I used to shut the radio off was when I heard this. I said, oh my God, is this what I have to learn? And so this part of Hindustani classical music, this effect is called the gamak. It's like a shadowy three-dimensional effect, if you noticed. But as I got to understand the beauty of it, and which I want to show you, suppose we were to take Sare Gama Padhanisa and Sani Dhapa Magaresa in a straight flat manner. Sare Gama Padhanisa Sani Dhapa Magaresa. Ah, that's flat, isn't it? But ah, you saw the difference? immediately it got on a dimension. And how does this happen? Once I did a workshop for some foreign jazz musicians, and they heard gamak and they said, "You're shaking your vocal cords." I said, "No, there's no shake of any vocal cord. These are basically shadow notes added on to create this fantastic effect we have called gamak. And then, as I understood from where it came and the kind of dimension it gave, it grew on to me. And today classical music is incomplete without it. So these are all the ornamentations. And have you heard some of these youngsters who come out of a music school in 1 year? The ornamentations haven't set in yet. So that's how you spot the beginner of Indian music. Eriyali piya bin sakhi kalana parata mohe gadi palachina din. Okay, good. Keep learning. No, I don't want to, but this is what happens when the aesthetics haven't set in. Eriyali piya bin. That's where the ornamentations have come in. And really, we can't, once you learn Indian music and you're trying to sing a Western song, you just can't help yourself. The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung. Because we are not used to seeing a little gap go like that, you know. Fill it in. Fill it in. No. But let me tell you why do we fill it in? Because you see, compare it to Western classical music, they have harmony, they have layers, they have different voices. And Indian music is solely based on melody, one note at one time. And therefore, to make it rich and deep, you have to have a highly developed melodic system and highly developed ornamentation system. It's a must if a melodic system has to be exciting, and therefore you have to use it. And at this Jazz Institute, which Ajay mentioned, any music in the world which wants improvisation, which wants to borrow from other cultures, like jazz. Jazz, I think, subsists on borrowing and making itself richer by borrowing. Or pop, even pop music can borrow Indian techniques. India is the land to come, because our music is most times improvisatory. You've heard Aalap. You know what Aalap is? A slow, languorous development. Aalap. Taan. Sani re sani dava ma dava ga re sa. Solfa, or using sargam. Dim ta na 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 dim ta na 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 na. Or what we call as nom tom. Okay, all these techniques can be borrowed and used in pop music and jazz music, and therefore I love to give my students of jazz this example. Okay. The famous song Summertime. How could they enhance it using our Indian techniques? No, you'll find this nice, you may not laugh. Summertime. I'm not a Western singer. Summertime. Add Aalap. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping. And the cotton is high. Sagamadani sa niga sa ni sadhar gamadhani ni summertime. They can use all this to enhance their music. So I'm glad you like that. And then probably we come to one of the most awe-inspiring part of Indian music. One word, come on, you can give it to me. What makes Indian music the most sought after in the world? And that is rag. Not raga, please. Okay, because we are too often, used to hearing it as raga, but it's rag. I like to call it rag. So if you look up a dictionary of Hindustani music, I'm telling you the definition is a little scary. A melodic scheme characterized by a fixed set of notes, order of sequence of these notes, forget it. Rag, and all of you can recognize rags. And the moment somebody can recognize a rag, we think he's a demigod. And you know, he recognizes rags. And you're envious, all envious. Not difficult at all. Let me show you how. Just think of it as a recognizable tune. I would say rag is a recognizable tune with a fixed set of notes, and that is universally appealing. So, listen to these three tunes. आंसू भरी है निगाहें मिलाने को, कहीं ये वो तो नहीं. Sound same? Same rag. And I say, why don't everybody, keep a little notebook with songs, left-hand side column, right-hand side column, which rag is it? And over the years, just expand it. So tomorrow, if you go to a Hindustani music concert and you hear the artist doing, you say, hey, that sounds like Nigahe Mil, Rag Yaman. So you look at your neighbor and say, yaar, Yaman chal raha hai. And most cases you'll be right, believe me. If somebody tells you, Madhuban mein Radhika nache, just remember this little tukda and write it in your book, Rag Hamir. You go to a concert, sounds like Madhuban mein Radhika, Rag Hamir. This is the way to learn about rags. Keep that notebook and pencil ready. And all over, you go all over, right from your childhood, you're hearing rags. When you go to marriage, how many times have you heard that? But did you write in your book, Rag Malkaos? And why only that? What about the patriotic tunes we have? Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Rag Des. So we are surrounded by it. And some people have asked me, what does the younger generation do? I mean, we probably, in my generation, we had that whole wealth of Hindi film song to fall back upon. What does the younger generation do? You will be surprised. Listen to this phrase. Sa pa ma pa ga ma re sa. Rag Bhairavi. Dhum machale, dhum machale, dhum. It is completely and totally Rag Bhairavi. Sa ni sa, pa ni sa ga re ni sa, pa ni pa sa ni ga re ni sa. Rag Bhimpalas. झलक दिखला जा एक बार आजा जा 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 जा. Yeah, but all these songs can be extremely useful. Because you have to use the language of the youth. You cannot expect them to relate to anything else. Other tunes you could use, Oh, you've been hearing that? Come on. Okay. Gama padani nadi da padani sani sadhani pada sani da pa. Rag Khamaj. La 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 le yo, la 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 le yo. Pa 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 dha pa sa ga 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 re sa. Rag Bhop. So all these, I know it spoils the romance of the tune a bit by calling it Rag. But yes, there's hope for the younger generation. You just have to get them, use their language, and rope them into the magic of rag. That's not all. Western music, Beatles. Sa ga ma da ni sa ni da ma ga ma ga re sa. I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. Sare zani dhani sa ga ma dhani sa ma ga re sa ni dhani da ma ga re sa. Rag Bhageshri. So it's all over. You just have to tap combination of notes, find the rags, and pass on the magic to the younger generation. And they will start recognizing rags. Now in our rags, as you know, the Rishi Munis who really meditated on these rags found that certain rags are for the morning, certain are for the evening, certain rags are for the monsoon, certain rags are for midnight. And so what are all these seasonal time connections? Are they random? But I suppose, as I said again, the Rishi Munis have dwelt on this, they have meditated on this, and found at a certain point of time in the day, you have certain body vibes. And these notes gel with it. So whether it is, you know, Bhairav in the morning, ga ma da da pa ga ma re re sa, is the mood you have, the silent mood you have in the morning. And about emotions in Hindustani rags, I did a workshop where I once tried to give a mood like this. And I asked the students to guess the mood. Mistake of mine, but I tried. Sa re ga pa ni sa ga re ni pa ga re sa. With a smile on my face. I said, what mood did you detect? Deep pain. So I said then, sa re ga ma re ga. What is this? But made me realize one thing, that of course you need a little bit of cultural training, and you have to show the light. It will not happen automatically. You have to show the connection before. And talking about our Hindu philosophy, most of our classical music does sound rather somber, meditative. It's for attaining a higher level. So it may not be out and out happy, sad, melancholy. It's a very complex and abstract emotion. And look at our Hindu philosophy. Struggle, sacrifice, suffer, so that next life is good. So all that comes into our music. It is a somber music, it is a meditative music, to get you to a higher plane of thinking. So yeah, why don't I end just with a nice tune for you? Or better than show you how an emotion is expressed for monsoon. We are ending a summer now, we need the rain soon. So a musicologist has said, for depicting monsoon, don't expect, like Chopin does in his Raindrop Sonata, he draws a picture of the monsoon for you. Not in Hindustani music. It's the feeling the heart gets when after a scorching summer, the rain comes down. So, mare pa, burst of joy. Ga mare sa. That is the way the complex Indian moods are depicted. And remember, when this younger generation goes to a music concert in the future, what tells us that they've understood Hindustani music? Say, wah, kya baat hai. Because in a Hindustani concert, when a whole crowd at one point goes, wah, that means the Indian essence has been understood. Thank you very much.